Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock. It's time for a Talk Magic. This is where I interview a magician. And today I am super excited because I have somebody on the channel that has been making waves in the magic community, literally come out of nowhere. 2 or 3 years ago, this would be somebody that you would have never have heard of, but there's a very good chance you've heard of this person all over social media, all over every single company that produces magic. They're sharing and resharing his tricks and his creations. He's got tricks and effects coming out with numerous different magic companies, and he is doing everything absolutely perfectly. I have a feeling he's going to be one of the top creators in the world over the next couple of years, and I cannot wait to chat to him because he's literally come out of nowhere. Please welcome to Talk Magic, the one and only Chris James. How you doing, buddy? You all right?
Good, man. Good. That was a great introduction. Thank you.
It's true. You have literally come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And in the last year especially, you're everywhere, like everywhere. I go on social media, I go on Instagram, I go on TikTok, I go on Facebook, I go into any Facebook group anywhere in the world, and it's very good. I'm going to see you there. You're doing everything right, and everybody is talking about you. Murphys tend to share your stuff more than their own stuff these days, not just Murphys, Penguin. I know you've got stuff coming out with every single company. It's incredible what you've managed to achieve, and I cannot wait to figure out what it is that you've done and what your goals are moving forward and how you managed to achieve it. It's going to be a very exciting interview. So yeah, I mean, thanks for jumping on the channel. Really appreciate it. Now, for those people who don't know who you are, which is probably anybody not on social media, I want to start off, as I always do with these interviews, by talking a little bit about your origin story, because I know your origin story is a little different to a lot of other people. The amount of people that I interview on Talk Magic, Chris, and they go, yeah, I had a coin pulled from behind my ear when I was knee-high to a grasshopper. But I know your kind of journey into magic is a little bit different to that. So can we start off with the origin story? How have you ended up being in this industry? How did that all happen?
Okay. Well, I actually, it just started about 3 years ago when my sister called me after watching America's Got Talent. We would both watch it. And she's like, hey, have you seen Shin Lim? Or I think it was like it's the X Factor or it's the America's Got Talent that's like the super one with the second time he won. And I was like, yeah, I've been watching it. And she's like, it's pretty cool what he does. And I was like, yeah, I think they're using computer like CGI. And she's like, no, I think it's real, like they're using like cards. And so I'm like, no, it can't be. And I was like, how about this? I'm gonna go to the store, I'm gonna grab a deck of cards because I didn't even own one. I'm gonna grab a deck of cards and I'm gonna look some stuff up and see what I can find. And I literally just fell in love with it. When I went to that store, I picked up one deck of cards and thought that this will be the deck of cards that I'll always use. I'll never have to change. It'll be my lucky deck. That deck was destroyed in like 3 weeks. I couldn't even use it anymore. It's sitting over there. It's just like a little relic. I said, hey, check out this little trick I learned. And I think it was just something like a transpo, a double lift transpo. And I showed it to her on video, and she's like, you can be on AGT. Because you always get that. People think, they see a trick, because not a lot of people see close-up magic ever, except for on TV. So somebody said to me, there's a shop called Penguins, because I started to like ask around about things. And I watched a lot of Chris Ramsey videos because that's what's there. You go on YouTube, especially then, and it's Chris Ramsey, that's what you see, how do you do this, that. And I stumbled across an Aaron Fisher video that was like buried, and it wasn't flashy. It didn't have all that like great editing and all that. And I thought, I'm just gonna, that's a bad video. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, because it wasn't like that eye candy, And so then one day I said, I'm gonna see what this guy has to say. And it was like an 8-minute video, and it changed everything. He talked about the conjuring community and all these, this little community of magicians that he has. And I was like, I'll try it out and see. And that place did help a lot. I'm not in there anymore because it's you know how those communities can get. I just had to move on to something different for myself. And somebody said there's a shop called Penguin, and I thought they were joking, that sells magic. I literally thought it was a joke. And so I ordered a couple things. They said order an invisible deck, Svengali deck, something like that. And I got the invisible deck in the mail, and it didn't have the instruction pamphlet that it normally would, because I've gotten more since then, and they have the thing with the Daryl write up. And I just looked at this deck and I was like, what can I do with this deck? And I came up with my own trick, and I just brought it out into public, and I started doing basically the invisible deck, because I noticed the way they were paired, and I was like, okay, I think I can make this work because all the pairs add up to a certain thing. And I just was doing invisible deck, kind of my own little handling on it. And I was doing it wrong. And I was handing the invisible deck out at the end because I didn't know any better. And I think starting that way helped me a lot now, because I don't worry about those things as much, where I know you can get in your head a lot with these things. And I think I'm jumping too forward. But so yeah, basically that's what happened. Is it was a like kind of a dare from my sister. And then I literally just fell in love with everything about it. And what's funny is I did know there was an uncle who used to do a magic trick, but I never thought of it as magic. He would take a spoon and squeeze it, and like orange juice or coffee would come out of it. Come to find out, he did do magic. I didn't, like, he did, like, it was like a little hobby for him, but I was so disinterested in it. I just was like, oh, it's a cool little trick. And then I knew a card trick, which is like you peek the bottom card and then you tell them to pick that card. And then it's like an old, it's called like the grandmother's trick or something. And I did that trick for years. Like I did that trick, but I never looked at it as magic. It would just be like a party thing. You know, I'd blow people's minds at the party. Never once did I think this is magic. And then, yeah, I picked up that deck from Safeway down the road, and honestly, the rest was history. I wanted to learn about like how every little thing worked, how the moves work. I just looked at it in a different way than I saw most people were looking at it. So it was kind of hard for me to find my place and fit in. I was always like, not have the same opinions as other people and all that stuff. But eventually I kind of found my own groove, if that makes sense. Because like I said, it was like a certain way that things had to be done, and you had to learn and level up like this. And I didn't want to do it that way. I just wanted to learn moves, and I wanted to show people some cool magic. And then I had no plans on performing magic. This is before the invisible deck thing. I did a transpo to a guy at a Goodwill, because I would go there and ask him to buy decks of cards that came in blue seal bicycles. And he was like, the only way I'll give them to you is if you show me a magic trick. Well, I had never shown anybody magic. So I was learning all these crazy moves, and he wasn't impressed, because that's not what he wanted to see. He didn't care that I can shift the card down and all this. So I said, give me a week, I'll come back, blah, blah, blah. So a few days later, I go back and I show him a trick, and then he's screaming for the guy in the back to come and watch it, and everyone's going nuts. And that's when I was like, oh, I want to perform magic. Like, I actually want to like show people magic. And then honestly, ever since then, there was a while there, anybody who would watch, I would just go perform. I would just, if you're at the gas station pumping gas, like literally I would do anything I could to show magic. Wow. And then I don't know if you want to like intervene or something, but that's like the origin kind of story.
Yeah, well, I want to pick up on a few points before we carry on with the story, which is 3 years ago you got into magic.
Yeah.
So that would have been pretty much during the pandemic.
It was right before it, yeah.
Just before the pandemic. So you got into magic just before the pandemic, then the pandemic hit. Did that help kind of get you really packed? Because obviously you got the bug, you got bitten by the bug very, very, very quickly. Did the pandemic help that, or was it like detrimental towards it?
Honestly, no, I don't think it had anything to do with it. I think it would have been either way, you know. No, because I was working more than most people was during the pandemic. It wasn't like I was home and had nothing to do or anything like that. It could have been now, it could have been before. It was just time to be, you know, I got bit by the bug in a lot of ways, because it wasn't just performing. It was the we'll get into this later, but the creating side of it was something that I didn't even know when I first came to you and talked to you. I didn't come to you as someone who's wanted to create. I wanted to be like a wedding magician, because I live in Napa Valley, and there's like probably a ton of money to make out there. And I thought it would just be a fun experience. And then by the end, you're like, did you ever think about creating? And it's like, not really. But I had mentioned creating that whole time, and I didn't realize I was creating tricks and doing my own thing. I just thought it was just, doing magic. That was a whole nother thing when that happened. I got bit by that bug. It was all very quick. It was like, boom, you know what I mean?
And when you first got into magic, because you've only been in it for 3 years, so when you first got into magic, was there a particular genre that you wanted to learn, or were you just trying to learn everything? Or was there a particular? Because you mentioned card magic, but I know you do a lot with coins. I know you do a lot with rings. Like, how were you learning magic? Was it just one particular thing, or were you trying to just learn? Were you trying to learn as much as possible?
Well, okay, it was definitely cards at first, because I think you have to understand something, because it might be hard for someone even like you who've been in magic for a very long time. People that aren't in magic don't realize that there's all these other things. They don't realize that, right? Because I was that person a few years ago, and I didn't know any of that existed. Putting pens through bills, and making watch changes into cards, and things that use magnets, and coin gimmicks, and like, it just didn't exist. So cards was the only thing I knew of magic, and then stage magic. Honestly, seeing stuff on TV was stage magic. But I've never had an interest in stage magic. I still don't, but that doesn't mean anything, because I wasn't interested in coins 3 years ago. And then all of a sudden, like last year, I was like, ooh, coin magic is pretty cool. And then I got obsessed with that. But yeah, there's not one single genre, but now it's kind of anything that's magic. You know what? Actually, mentalism kind of creeped up on me, because I started to realize that I wanted to do magic that I can have on me, and mentalism was a big one. And I kind of did mentalism before I was in magic without realizing it. Like my friends would go out and we would do things. It's just like, again, like just having fun social stuff. But now that I look back on it, it was kind of magic. You know what I mean? There is one other thing. A good friend of mine, Jeremy Chisholm, we went to Disney World to escape a hurricane. It's got to have been 15 or 20 years ago now. And as we were leaving, we were both drunk. We were like stumbling out of Disney World. This guy was floating a card, and it was the hover card. And he got bit by the bug then a little bit. But we got that card and we got into the car, and then we opened it, and I saw it was string, right? It was a thread. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. Like, because he had LED lights on it. And I thought the LED lights were making the cards go up and spin. So for me, that was kind of magic. I was like, this is silly. Like, but man, I appreciate all that now. At that time I did it, but yeah. So genre, everything now. But at the beginning, definitely just cards.
Okay, and before we carry on and talk about how you got into creating, I want to ask you another question. One of the things I get asked an awful lot on the channel is people that are new into magic, they say to me, I'm getting into magic, I'm buying everything. And I'm just learning everything, but I don't think I'm getting good at everything, because I'm just collecting secrets. I'm buying it to see how it's done. I'm looking at it, and then I'm just moving on to something else, and I'm never actually practicing something to the point that I feel it's ready to go out in front of people. As somebody who's like we'll talk about this later on, but you get a lot of magic, you see a lot of magic, you see a lot of new magic. Do you have that problem? And if you do or don't, like, have you got any advice for people that do have an issue like that? Like, they just kind of just overwhelm themselves with tricks and they don't really ever get anything down, because you master so many things, but you learn a lot of new stuff as well.
Yeah, I could tell you right now. The big thing is, so this is a hard one, because I talk to people about this and they're like, how do you'll see something and then you'll pick up on it quick or something. I think a lot of that has to do with me playing guitar and being able to use my fingers for things. I already have a lot of those muscles down. And I feel like anybody who plays an instrument will tell you that. But you really, if you're going to do it like that, you can't, I'm not saying don't do anything else, but like, I can't sit there and play. Like, I have a ton of friends during the pandemic, right? That sat and played Call of Duty all day. Like, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere if that's what I did. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to put the time in. And I can see how it can get overwhelming, buying different things. And then the next thing comes out and you're like, I need that. Like, trust me, I did it more than anybody. I had a friend, actually, no, I won't even get into that, but I have like a whole store here of magic. But I'm glad I did, because I learned a lot of things. You know, I don't buy as much anymore. But I think that's so hard, man, because I feel like everyone's journey is different. And it's kind of like, but if you're feeling that way, because I have felt that way before, I have felt a little overwhelmed, is I always go back to the basics. Like, I always just go back to the things that I first got into that I was like, oh, this is really, like, even if it's something as simple as like, you know what, I'm going to sit down today and I'm going to make myself an ambitious card. I'm just going to wing it, you know? And, or I'm going to grab a split coin and I'm just going to do some crazy stuff with a split coin. Or, and I think that helps, because it's just bringing you back to where you started, back to what you saw. I think that there's a big problem in the magic thing is people see something that fools them and then they get it. And then now they see the method. They think that's not going to fool anybody, but they have to remember that it fooled them. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So I it's so hard. Like I said, everyone's journey is different, but yeah, I say just do. I hate when people try to say like, oh, you buy too much magic, or why do you have 3 of those? Or because like I'm allowed to do, and I actually did that one time. I was talking to a friend. I was like, why do these people buy decks of cards and wrap them up and put them under their bed to never be used? And my friend was like, that's their thing. Let them do that. If they want to wrap it in gold, let them wrap it in gold. You can't tell them what to do. And I don't know, that just hit me. And I've always remembered that. And for some reason, yeah, I don't know, that just spoke to me. And I feel like you have to do what, so like, this is something we'll talk about in a little bit, but like with the Instagram thing, anybody who comes to me is like, can you help me with Instagram? The first thing I say is do it, and do it for you. Like, don't do it for anybody else, but you actually have to do it. But we'll talk about that later. But I hope I answered the question in some way. I know we went a little all over the place, but.
No, you did. Absolutely. And I suppose the next question I've got for you is, so you've got into magic, you're really enjoying learning new magic, you're really enjoying like just finding everything out about this industry. You haven't really done much performing. When did you kind of think, you know what, I want to start being a creator? And what did that look like to you? Was it creating stuff to just have your own spin on it? Or were you having a desire to actually go out and, you know, release product to eventually sell? How did that kind of look? Because one thing that you do, which I'm really impressed with, and I see it over and over again, is you'll take a trick, and you'll come up with like 7 or 8 ways of doing it that the creator never even thought possible. And that's something I like to try and do. And that's something very few people do that. And you do that as well. So was that done on purpose? Was it done out of desire? Was it done just because it was a fun thing for you to do? Like, how did that all come to be?
Okay. So that came from me going out, and so I don't perform magic professionally at all. I've never done a gig, nothing like that. I don't think you need to create magic. I think can only help you, but you know what? I say that actually, and I think that there's certain creators out there that I think it helps them that they're not gigging magicians. So I don't know how I feel about that, but it was me going out performing magic for people, and it not feeling like it was mine. Like, you know, like it didn't feel like it was something that I would do. It didn't feel like me at all. So I would bring it home, and then I would twist it a little bit and make it feel more comfortable, and then or just more natural for me. And then before you knew it, it was kind of like its own trick. I would take a little bit of this trick, a little bit of that trick, a little bit of that, and but I never looked at it as, oh, this could be like a product release or anything like that. I never looked at it like that. honestly, that was more recently. Yeah, that was more recently when I started thinking like, oh, these are actually like tricks that people may like performing themselves, and they're unique to. I think I looked at magic creating, Craig, honestly, as it has to be this revolutionary, brand new idea that no one's ever thought of, and that's the only way you can create and release magic. But it's not like that, you know. It's not like that. And once I saw that, it definitely helped me, because I created some magic, I tell you, that I didn't think anyone would ever want to see. And then I see these products come out later, and I know this happens to other people, and they're like huge hits, and it's like, oh, that was a good idea. I didn't think it was. So that happens to me quite a bit, actually, quite a bit. I have a story about that, but it's with the quantum deck. You had the quantum deck. I was obsessed with Rough and Smooth, and I was messing around with it. And one day I realized that I can do what you do in the quantum deck. This was before the quantum deck. And I just tossed to the side because I was like, no one's ever this is the dumbest thing ever. This has surely been thought of before, but no, then you come out with that. But obviously you did way more with it. I didn't do blanks or anything like that. I just came out in my head. I was like, oh, you can get to different numbers. I don't want to say too much, but you know what I'm saying. Anyone who owns it. But yeah, so I kind of forgot the question. I think I answered it.
You did. It's about it was about your desire to create tricks.
Oh yeah,
and where that came about. So what so I suppose the question is, and this is the $1 million question.
Yeah.
You've got a very, considering you've not actually officially had a trick out yet.
Yeah, no.
I know that you've got many on the horizon, and 2023 and 2024 is going to be a big year for you as a creator. As of time filming right now, you've not officially had a trick out, and yet without having a trick out, you've got such a huge profile. Like the amount of people that call me and say, "Oh, Chris James." Probably one of the highest profiles outside of people that are creators, which is amazing, really. So how did that happen? I suppose is the $1 million question. How did that happen? How did you end up like in the position that you're in without actually releasing a single magic trick?
Yeah. Well, there's a
to be clear, that's a position a lot of people would like to be in. People who have created and released magic tricks would like to be in a position that you're in right now.
Yeah, so I was watching a show one night, and an 800 number came up, and it said, dial the number, and you basically it was dial the 800 number, and then it will teach you how to do this, right? No, I'm just kidding. That's not at all what happened. Okay, this is what it is. And there's a few things, actually. First off, and I think this is so important, is first, take every opportunity that you get. If someone reaches out to you and wants you to do anything, like if Murphy's says something like, hey, it'd be cool if you did this in this way, and we put it on the show, then if it's important to you, stop what you're doing and get it done and actually do it. That's big, because that just puts your name out there and then gets other people to see you. And then it gets that person talking about you, and then that builds. The other thing, and I stand by this, and I know some people don't like it, but is put some magic out there for free and don't charge anything for it. I get people that think it's a great idea and some that don't think it's a good idea. I don't see how it could be a bad idea. Because you're showing yourself, you're not charging for anything. If it's bad, then oh well. People have no reason to complain. Trust me, they still will complain. It's crazy how they can still complain about stuff like that when it's free. But put some time into it, make it a fun, decent trick, and put it out for free. Because, do you know, I put out a trick called Pop Wild on Penguin. That trick has almost 50 reviews. There's tricks on the top 10 that don't have 50 reviews. I'm not even saying the trick's not the greatest trick in the world. It's just the fact that it's free It has a nice little thing to it. And I get messages every week where people are like, thank you for putting that out. It's fun to perform. I performed it on my sister. I did it at a gig. And that just makes me happy. But I think that also builds your name and reputation as like, oh, this guy could have charged me for this, because I could have charged for that. I could have charged. I've done the math before, and I probably could have made a pretty penny off that, but I didn't. You know what I mean? And I would never do it any other way. So yeah, there's that. And then it's honestly, it's like with any business, kind of, I feel like, because I'm just learning that it's also a business, right? That's something that you talk about. It's not just it's got to eventually become a business. It can't just be like all fun and games all the time, because then you just won't get anywhere. And I'm learning that, and I'm seeing that. Before, I think I would disagree with that and say, well, no, this is going to take the fun out of it, but you've got to treat it like that, you know? So, but don't be afraid to talk to people and message people and make friends. Like, you'd be surprised who would answer you back when you reach out to someone and say, hey, you know, I was playing around with your new effect, and I came up with this little handling. And they can either say, I thought of it, I've already thought of it, and we didn't put it in the project for this reason, or they could say, wow, that's really cool. Let me look at this. And they play with it. And then now you kind of made a little buddy, you know, has a big name in the magic. I did a lot of that. I wasn't afraid. I talked to Rich Relish about this too. And he's also not afraid to message people and to say, because a lot of these guys aren't, I think they feel unattainable to some people, and they're really not, you know. You might get an ass here and there, and you know to kind of just stay away, but for the most part, they love magic as much, if not more than you do. So they're ready to talk magic. And that just kind of gets your name in their ear, you know, or your name in their ear rather. So that's a big thing. And I do think it's important to put a social media out there. And because I always see people that I get messages all the time from people that are saying, I'm trying to do a social media, blah, blah, blah. I got the camera, I got the lights, I got this. They're showing me the setup. They're showing me all the things they're doing with the background and the this and the that. And if you go back and look at my social media, like at the beginning, and I'm kind of glad it's there, there's some horrible, horrible videos. I mean, the light is dim, the background it's just bad. But I feel like you need to just do it. It doesn't matter if you have the $5,000 camera and the light. Like, I just do stuff with an iPhone, and I did upgrade to an Elgato light because I do think the Elgato lights are nice. But and I put a background in and all that, but I don't think you need any of that. And I didn't need it, and I don't think anyone else needs it. So do social media, but don't worry too much about, because if you put good magic out there, everything else is gonna. So when I created my Instagram, I didn't want it to be about me. I see a bunch of Instagrams where it's about, like, it's the character, and the magic is kind of second. And I know people disagree with this, but I try to, if you notice, I try to stay out of the magic. Like, I just want to show the magic, and I am not the character.
Yeah.
And I do that on purpose. And for me, it works, you know. And I'm not saying that I have 10,000 followers or anything like that, but the people that do follow me are dedicated. Like, they want to see the videos. I'd rather have 1,000 people follow me that they all like watching the videos than 20,000. You know what I mean? Everyone. That's just normal. But yeah, they're there for the magic. They're there to see what spin I'll put on something this week, and a lot of that isn't planned either. It's not 40 takes. It's not whatever. I just sit there. I look at this coin. I'm like, ooh, if I did this and then this, like, you know what? Camera on, boom, boom, post, done, on to the next, you know? I do think, I put time into it though, because it is, I noticed it's really nerve wracking for people to get on the camera and to hear their voice. And I never thought I never had that issue because I did things in my past that wouldn't make me think that way. But I understand it's weird hearing your own voice and seeing yourself on camera. So that's a big nerve wracking thing. But you gotta get over it. Because you can't hide and, expect everyone to see who you are when you're hiding behind a curtain,
So let's talk a little bit more about social media.
Yeah.
Because you do get picked up constantly by Murphy and by Penguin, and you get shared and reshared and reshared. Any advice on how to like get on the radar of those big companies? Because that really helps your reach and your notoriety, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. First off, okay, so if somebody reaches out to me and they're like, hey, I'm not getting no likes on this video, or it's because first off, they're not tagging the when I do a video, I tag everything that's in that video. If I use a Tango coin, I tag the Tango coin. If it's a Craig Petty product, I tag Craig Petty. You know what I mean? And then it just goes on. A lot of people think that when you tag somebody, you're bothering them, but you have to understand they want to see their magic out there too. They want to see it. You know, like it makes you feel good when you see somebody do a really cool handling.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view as a creator, one of the things that's absolutely amazing is if I see somebody else using the thing that I've put time and effort into, 100%.
Yeah. So you got to tag. And the biggest thing is honest to God, Craig, is being humble. And that's the God's honest truth. Because when I talk to these people, I think they're acting like they're 1 million followers and there's not 100.
Yeah.
And you just got to be a little bit humble about like your video might not be liked by everyone. I post videos. I know people talk crap. I literally heard it. I've heard it in voice messages. People out there who are talking crap that don't think it's being that I don't know. I know. I see some of it, and it bugs me because I'm just doing my thing. But then I realize I can't be affected by that. But to the question is honest to God, it's just being nice. And like I said, take advantage of the situation. If you have Murphy's message you and want something from you and said like, hey, I could put it on the Saturday thing, let's get it done. Then if you can do it at 2 a.m. and have to be tired for work the next day, then do it. You know what I mean? Don't kill yourself, but take advantage of every opportunity. But I think it's just tagging things. And the biggest thing is the content. Is it doesn't matter who you are, what camera, whatever. If the content sucks, people aren't, it's just not going to matter, you know? You got to do something unique. Now you can get into all the things of like, do something flashy in the first 3 seconds. And I'm sure that's great for everyone, but I've done a lot of testing and it's not what always works. Some people say long form content don't work, but my best video is an entire 2-minute trick. So I think you have to find what's good for you. You know what I mean? And what works for you. And maybe you are a little bit of a character and you want to show that character and make people laugh or do whatever. But I think for the first few videos is like sit down and actually come up with a really clever way of doing the trick, something that hasn't been done. Go do research on the trick. You know, like, okay, there's the chapstick where you, Nicholas Lawrence, and you put it through the bill, right? And it comes out the other, smooth, I think it's called. Yeah. I've seen that 1 million times. Everyone always does the same thing. The chapstick goes through the bill and blah, blah, blah. So when someone's scrolling, they're just, even Penguin or Murphy's, they're going to look at it and be like, it's the same thing. Now, Murphy's is great with social media and they'll like your video because I feel like they want to support people that are trying to make a name. But other companies will just be like, I'm not going to like this. This is ridiculous. Because they have a brand that they want to keep. So if they see a bunch of videos being liked that aren't great videos, that gets noticed by people. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I don't think that way. I like videos to try to support people and all that stuff. But look at that chapstick and do something different with it that no one's ever done. I don't know. You could probably think of a million ways. Like right now I'm thinking mirror. I can use a mirror. I can make a mirror. I could do something with that. You know what I'm saying? Like do something different that you haven't seen done before. And that's a big thing, I think. And that gets you noticed by the companies. I feel like that's what kind of worked for me.
That's really great advice. Really great advice.
Yeah.
And running parallel to all of this social media activity that you're doing, at the same time, you have been creating magic, both for yourself and also creating routines with other people's products.
Yes.
So before we talk about creating tricks for yourself, you're posting constantly your handlings of other people's tricks.
Yep.
Was that done by design? Was that done to, I suppose, what's the end game? Was that design, do you want to become a full-time creator? Was that done to get the magic companies to sit up and pay attention to you? Hey, look, you've brought this trick out and here's another 10 ways that you could do it. Or was it just a case of, hey, I've got this really cool handling and I want to show it to the world? At what point did you decide, right, I want to be a creator? What does that end game look like? And was the stuff that you do with other people's products part of the design of achieving that final outcome?
Okay. That's a great question. I always feel when people say it's a great question, they don't know how to answer it. Yeah. So no, I didn't do it on purpose because I was just doing it. And I was just like, and then when people started pointing out like, oh, that's actually a pretty cool little twist on it, I was really, it boils down to the do it for me thing. I was really just doing it for me. And then it was kind of getting noticed by other people and then other different companies. And then as far as the end game, it's good to have an idea of where it is. See, one thing that people don't realize about magic that don't have anything to do with creating is the time. The time that it takes it could take you a minute to create the product. You might not get it for 3 years. You know what I mean? So that's something I'm struggling with now because I'm like, I don't know. That's not for this interview, but yeah, the end game is I do want to do creating. I don't know if I want it to be a full-time job, but I do want to be able to create just to have stuff out there to see people doing it. Like, okay, for you as an example, you might turn on BGT or AGT and see one of your tricks being performed, right? Or you saw Ellen. Like, to me, that's crazy. Like, that's so cool that you can actually have a trick that you created on a car ride home or whatever it was, and then it's on Ellen. Like, I would love that. I would love it because then I know other people are getting enjoyment out of it. And for me, that's like the biggest thing, right? Is just people getting enjoyment out of it. Now there's money that comes along with it and all that, but the money's not, it's definitely, you don't do this for money. That's for damn sure. I mean, I guess you can get to a point, I'm sure, but yeah, so I don't think it's a full-time job thing. I just want to kind of have fun doing it and see what comes along on the ride. The other thing too is I do think get yourself in as many projects as you can by sharing ideas that even if you think they're dumb, just at least share them, because what's that saying, like no idea is a bad idea or something like that. But is just share different things because you might get a credit on things. Like I had stuff I was doing with the Mirage coin set and I was posting it in the Facebook group, and then Peter Nardi messages me out of nowhere and is like, hey, record those and we'll put them up on the tutorial. And he's done that for other people too. So I think that's important, is to get mentions on project like Vox. The Series ACAN just came out. I came up with a handling with a deck. If you own it, you know it. And I'm really proud of that. And that came from an idea that I thought maybe it might be a good idea, but let me run it by David Jonathan and see what he says. And he was like, huh, did you make it yet? And I'm like, no, it's just kind of in my head. So then I made one, he made one, and then we kind of went off there. And now it's, his preferred way of handling that thing, that trick. But yeah, I think it's like every opportunity, because honest to God, I see this, and I've talked to some of these people. I don't want to say names because I don't want to put them out there, but some of these people that like are in charge of some of these companies, like social media and all that, they're kind of shocked when they ask somebody to do something and then they have to like beg the person for 3 weeks for something really simple. And I think that's important, just to get it done and just to put it out there. And because it's only going to benefit you, right? It's not, there's a million things they're doing. You can find time to answer the person back and say, hey, I'm busy, or blah, 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 or whatever. I don't know what the excuse is, but there is an excuse there. And I've heard from those people that they'll just move on to somebody else, you know, and see what's next. So I think that's important. So yeah, as far as end term goal, I don't know if I want it to be full time. It could turn into that, but right now I want it to just be a fun thing that I'm doing. And but like I said, I got to start treating it more like a business, because that's important. Yeah, and that's
a really great answer. So how does your creative process work? Let's forget about the tricks you've created for yourself for now, and let's talk about, you've got a trick. Everybody's raving about it, and you want to work out different ways of doing it that makes it more unique to you, that you can share on social media. How does that process work? Is there a formula that you go through, or is it just a case of looking at this trick and going, well, you could do it this way?
Okay. Yeah. So let's say I bought something and I just got it. I literally do this. I have a close-up pad here. I put it on the close-up pad and I literally just keep it there for like a week. And I'll come by and I'll touch it a little bit and I'll mess with it and I'll just kind of look at it. And then I'll like put it down again. And this is really what I do. And then I'll be sitting there and I'll be doing something entirely different. And then an idea will pop in my head. Like, oh, if I added a cup to that, then that would be kind of cool. Something will trigger like this, whatever this is. Like this is a tuck, right? And I'll just look at these things and I'll think, what else can I do with these? Because like I said, I do the research and I see what other people are doing with them. And there's nothing wrong. They're fun performances to watch, but I just don't want to be the same. I don't want to do the same performance as everyone where they make the coin appear and then it appears in this hand and then this. So I just want to use it in a different way, right? So one way, like for example, where is it? And this is stupid, but it's not at the same time. This is one of these little split coins that you can get with like a poker chip. And you know, you can produce the coins and produce the poker chips. But what I found interesting, right? And people reached out to me on social media being like, it's a very clever way of using this gimmick, is if you take it and then you go like this, and you could do a thing just like this. Look, when you shake this, the edges look like they're blue, right? But they're not blue, right? This side looks like kind of like a copper or whatever. And then that's just literally something stupid. I just came up with the idea when I was in the camera going like this, but it's a different way of using this, right? It's not the same way of using this gimmick. You're using it in like an illusion thing. And anyways, so that's kind of how that was. I was just looking at that. Yeah, it is to fit my style. I think that's important too, to make it fit you. I think that's so important, is to make it fit what you do. But I just love taking different, honest to God, my coin sets, I don't even know what coin goes with what anymore. They're all just one big jumble pile. I have shells on top of shells, and do you know what I mean? Because I want to create different things with it, different. Yeah, I'm trying to answer that question, Craig, and I think it's just me kind of looking at it and just thinking what I can do with it. And then I'll see an object and I'll be like, oh, this object might go good with this. Okay, so one of the more recent ones for me was like the WoW gimmick, right? I saw the WoW gimmick and everyone used the WoW gimmick. They put it in. There's great tricks. You have great stuff on it. There's other people have great stuff on it. I just want to do something different with it. So I was like, I was literally on eBay and I was like, what if this was like an eBay item? And I put in a Pokemon card and changed a card into a Pokemon card. And I'm an eBay guy. And this is how I make my money. So stuff like that, you know what I mean? And I think you have to do that and find what works for you, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's a real skill. It's not an easy thing to do. I know some people, they sit down and they will literally just sit there and try to come up with something different and try to come up with something unique. And they don't And I think that's one of the things that's made them, but that's made you stand out from the crowd. You're one of the very few people, you get onto creators' radars very quickly because you take their tricks and you perform it and present it in a completely different way. And I know there's creators that reach out to you all the time and say, hey, love what you've done here. Hey, love what you've done here. Hey, love what you've done here. I mean, it's a great way to get noticed, Chris. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's I don't think you have to do it, but I think you should challenge yourself to try to do it, if you know what I mean, because just take different things, just put 3 items down that are products and see what you can come up with, you know. I don't know, it's not like there's Coin Fusion by Gregory Wilson. Recently I looked at Coin Fusion and I was like, oh my god, I could fit a shell on that. So like, who knows what will come of that? I don't know yet, but we'll see what happens. But right now it's sitting over there, I'm looking at it, and then one day I'll pop up with the idea and go from there. I think it's important to really try to challenge yourself with these things, and really like give yourself like I have a half hour to come up with something with this, even if it sucks. Like, it's okay, because it's just making your brain work and you know, getting that muscle going, and then the next time it won't be as bad, and then it becomes easier, and then I don't know, it's just different things. Or sometimes I'm just sitting there and I'll look at something and I'll see like a trick over there and a trick over there that's on a shelf, and I'll be like, ooh, so here's the thing. I think a lot of people get magic and it goes into a drawer, and I don't think, I know that, I see that, and I think it's so important to find a way, if you can, to display your magic in a way that you can always see it, instead of it being in the drawer. Because if you have a Sharpie that bends and then a Sharpie that does this and that, and it's in a drawer, you're going to forget it's there. But if you have it like on a table, you can always remind yourself, okay, oh, there's that bending Sharpie. So if you have the room to do it, I think it's important to have like a table of stuff, just to, you know, get the creative juices flowing, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So here's a question when it comes to creating. You're obviously bringing out your own tricks soon.
Yep.
We can talk about that in a bit, but you're obviously starting to release your own creations.
Yeah.
Was the creative process different when you're creating your own tricks, as opposed to just like taking somebody else's trick and changing it around? What made you realize you could create something and release it? And I know you don't know what you're going to do, whether you're going to do this full time or not, but I know you know that you could make a lot of money doing this, especially with the profile that you've got. So what made you, I suppose 2 questions. One, does the creative process differ when you're creating your own trick? And what advice would you give people that want to actually ultimately be a creator? I've talked about this on the channel before. New people that get into magic, they put creators on pillars, on pedestals. Like, oh my God, I want to be that Greg Wilson. I want to be that Jay Sankey. I want to be that Lloyd Barnes. Everybody looks up to them. They're really cool. They're bringing out this trick, that trick, the other trick. And a lot of people come into this industry wanting to be creators and then kind of failing, or just putting something out through Penguin that kind of sucks. You've done it the right way. I mean, you really have done it the right way. So yeah, any advice on that? And does the creative process differ when you're coming up with your own trick, as opposed to working on somebody else's?
Yeah, definitely differs. I actually struggle with it when it's my own thing. I've got to the point where I have to almost put time limit. Like, I have to put like, so if I have something so I always want to keep at it. Like, it's never, even when it's done and I'll show people and people are like, man, this is great. You know, this is really fun. Just not even talking about a trick to sell. I'm just talking about a trick that I want to go out and perform and do whatever. I'll add more, and I'll add more, and I'll add more, and I'll add more. And then I want to switch it like this. So I struggle with that. I can never, and I know other people must struggle with this. They look at something and it's never finished, right? When I'm doing something like with somebody else's thing, I can put an end to it and it's like finished. But with my stuff, and you know this about me, Craig, like, I struggle with that. Like, it's really, 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 I sat on that penguin trick for like 2 years, like, because it kept changing. And that's good because it will change into something better. And I don't think you should rush things. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle for me. For some reason, I don't get any creative, what's it called? Like if I'm using somebody else's things and I'm messing with them, for some reason, I'm like more free and open with it. But when it's mine, it's like more personal, and it's something that's hard for me to, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's almost like it's actually, that's a good question, Craig, because I really don't know why I do that with certain things. I'll have to ask myself that later. But yeah, I do struggle with it. I do. I think it's because I want it to be good for me, and I want it to be it's more personal, right? It's just more personal. And you're like attached to it in a certain way. I am getting a little bit better with it, but yeah, there's definitely a difference. And we'll see where that goes in the future. But as of right now, I'm just trying to, honestly, I think the biggest thing with creating magic is actually doing it. And I think that's a huge thing, man. If you want to create a trick where you throw a coin and it just goes into the bottle, I don't care if there's 10 of them out there. Get a bottle, fill it up with water, and figure out how to do it, right? Just actually figure it out, because you might come up with some crazy idea that's never been done before. So I think it's actually important to not just think I'm going to do it, but really grab some extra card boxes, cut them apart, tear them apart. I mean, how many, answer this honestly, Craig, how many decks do you think you have sprayed with rough and smooth in your entire career?
Hundreds.
Yeah, that's literally because you're like testing things, and you know what I mean? And it's probably thousands, to be honest with you, with the stuff you do. But yeah, it's just actually testing. I went through 40 decks of cards one time over 3 days, because I was trying to come up with a weird method of things and blah blah blah. And they're just old decks I got from Goodwill. They were actually given to me by that guy. So I was just spraying them and messing with them, and got another can. So it's actually getting out and doing it and putting like challenging yourself with it, right? I think that makes sense. And what was the other question again about? I forgot.
It's fine. It's just about it was just one question. It was about creating, and how you become a creator really is the key thing, and how you approach creating your own tricks, because there is more pressure on you when you're creating your own trick as opposed to when you're messing around with somebody else's, because like you say, if people don't like it doesn't matter. So yeah, I suppose it's like, have you created stuff and you've kind of gone, no, I can't release that? Like, how, I know you have very high standards for stuff. Like, does that impact on what you're planning on bringing out? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, and I think that's just a learning experience for me, because it's so weird, because the things that you think are going to be great, you show and you're like, but then the things that you're like kind of doing on video for a friend, and they're like, that's the best thing I've ever seen. So it's such a weird thing to know what people want and like. I honestly feel like that's like a skill, to have that, to know what people are like wanting next. That's going to be a minute for me to figure that out. But I don't know. See, I think if you just create good magic and do a good trick, and you're getting good reactions from it, that's why I think it's important that you show it to somebody. In your head, you can sit there, and I can create a trick right now with a deck of cards. And let's say after we get off this, I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a trick, blah, blah. Hour later, I come up with a trick. And then tomorrow, I'm thinking this is the best trick ever. I'm going to build it up to be this crazy trick in my head, and it could totally suck. You know what I mean? Because you're not showing anybody. So I think it's important to show somebody, a sister, a brother, and just a friend. I think it's important to have a magic circle of friends that you really trust to show, and don't let that circle get too big. And make sure that the people in that circle Like it, don't let it just be anybody. Don't let it be because this person has a big name or something like that. Because there are people that will literally get in that circle and then take those ideas, and they have more resources than you, and then you'll see that trick come out. I've heard it happen. It happens, and that's shitty. So yeah, create that magic circle is a big thing, I think.
Okay, that's really good. People that you can trust.
Yeah.
So here's a question. This is probably the question that comes up the most on my channel from people that are wanting to become creators. How do you pick which company to bring a trick out with? What are the pros and cons with working with various different companies? And I know you're new into this journey, and I know that you haven't actually got tricks coming out with every company yet, but I know you've got tricks coming out with Alakazam, you've got tricks coming out with Abstract Effects. I know that you've been talking with Murphy's. You've had a product come out on the Penguin Partner Program. You know, I know that you're very close with people like Adam Wilbur. So I know that you know a lot of producers.
Yeah.
2 questions. 1, how do you pick which production company to go to? And 2, how do you get on their radar? Because these companies are being pitched 1 million products every single day. And they're turning away 1 million products every single day. How do you get that company to say, hang on a minute, drop everything, we want to work with this guy?
Yeah. So from what I see and from what I hear from talking to other people that are, because people will reach out to me and say like, hey, I'm trying to do this. Do you have any tips? Because they see what I'm doing is working for me. And you, real quick, before I answer that question, you said something about they want to be like the Lloyd Barnes or the Craig Petty, but you really have to find to be yourself. I think that's important to say that. I don't think you don't try to be Lloyd or don't try to be whatever, because you'll never be as good as Lloyd or as good as Craig because they're as good as them. You might be better than them as long as you're yourself. I think that's important. How to choose a company. I think it's important at the beginning to not, I think you need to show that trick. If you have a good trick, is to show it to everyone who wants to see it. Like, just show it. Because then eventually you might have 3 people on the line being like, ooh, I want, and then you have options, right? And that's good to have options. So I don't think it's too important to hone in on. I think you can get to a point where you're like, maybe like yourself, where you can be like, okay, this is kind of like a Penguin type of product, this is whatever, but I feel like you've earned that. I think you need to, I don't think you could be as picky when you're starting out. Really just send it out to all companies. And then the other thing is, I've talked to some of these people that look at some of these tricks at some of these companies that get sent, they get them sent in all the time. And sometimes it's a write-up, which is crazy to me. Like, the person will write up, be like, okay, imagine you have a deck of cards and you do this. They're literally just not even gonna probably email you back. Like, you have to have something to show. I don't care if, like, let's say you have a design for a Peak wallet and you think it's going to be great and all that. You want to show it to companies. You don't have to show them a leather wallet, but if you sat there and made it out of playing cards or paper or something like that, that just shows the company first that you're willing to, that you're a hard worker, that you put time and thought into it. Why are they going to put time and thought into it if you have it? I think somebody said something one time like, yes, we know you have the best card under box, but we don't want to buy it. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what we're looking for. They don't want to buy ideas either. Like, right? Like, you don't message a company and be like, okay, I have an idea for a key, and imagine if the key does this, blah, blah, blah. Like, show them. Even if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and, have a key made up and put some work into it, and I think it will pay off, right? I think that's important. Put some work into it, and I think on the other side, people will see that and it will pay off. Because, like, okay, so I have this little thing I'll tease. I don't want to tease it too much, but this is the Sparrow. It's coming out soon. If you notice, this is our prototype. This is leather that we made. Me and my friend did this. And I think having this with videos of performances is what got it people interested in it and got it sold. Because can you imagine me emailing a company and saying, okay, imagine this purse like this in a write-up? They wouldn't even, they would look at it and be like, huh, that's the, like, okay, cool, but no thank you. The fact that I had like videos of like things changing and coins going in and being stolen out and all this stuff, was enough for them to say, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, I put in hours and hours and hours of work into it. And so my friend Steve, who's doing this with me, we both put in a lot of time, and he made these by hand. It just spoke a lot to actually put some time and effort into you know, showing it. There's something to show. You got to have something to show. You can't just write them. You'd be surprised how many people message me saying, I wrote Penguin and I had the best idea, but they said, no, thank you. I'm like, because you wrote them in a paragraph. We're talking about something that's magic, which is visual, right? In a lot of ways. And you're not giving them any, it's like telling somebody, it's like writing a song and explaining how the song would be. Like, it's just, you can't do that, you know? So I hope that
happens if you haven't got the resources to prototype something.
Well, so like I was saying before, is paper. Like, honest to God, I could do this with paper, and I did. We did. We went paper, Tyvek. And at least there's something to show, right? There's got to be something. You can't just say this peak is, imagine if it did this and that. You can get a working prototype through paper or Tyvek, right? You can grab a piece of paper and slap it together, or grab playing cards. And like, I know Javier Funmeyer, he did the Nexus prototype with playing cards. You know what I mean? So I think that's important. If you don't have the resources, I don't think you need the resources. You know what I mean? Now, there are things that are like, oh God, like some stuff that you might have ideas for that are hard. I think you just have to show something. You have to sit there and do something to show them something that you're putting some thought into this, you know?
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. And to the other question, is there a particular company that how you talked about going to them with something, but how do you get them on the radar? Like, I mean, how do you even get them to look at it in the first place? I mean, is there a trick to that? Because I remember speaking to David Jonathan, and the Snaps deck that went out through Penguin got turned down by almost every other major Magic company, and that turned into Penguin's trick of the year, like one of the best tricks ever created. Yeah, turned down by everybody. Like, and he had the images, he had the deck, he had everything in place. He was able to show them, this is the concept, and you know as well as me, it's a really cool concept. But everybody turned him down, other than Penguin, and they made the right decision in hindsight. But I suppose, how do you get on their radar? How do you get them to say yes? Why is it that sometimes they'll be presented with a good idea and they won't go for it? Is it financial? Is it because you don't have a proven track record? And if so, how do you convince them that you can actually be trusted to deliver, you know, on you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So like the Snaps thing is crazy. Like, I don't know, but I guess people didn't see the idea, what could be of it. I think the biggest thing, Greg, is you have to be excited for it. You have to be, because if you're not excited for it, then how are you expecting these people to get excited for it? Like I said, do a video, show something, be excited for it, and then that translates over to them. Like, they get excited. It's just natural human interaction. You know, you get somebody excited. If I came to you right now and was like, hey dude, there's a movie I saw, as like the girl and the guy in there, she was a CIA agent, and you'd be like, huh. But if I was like, dude, there's a movie, there's a girl and the guy, and the girl's a CIA agent, like, you're gonna be like, okay, I need to go see it. You know what I mean? So I think showing that excitement, because no matter what, there are no's, and there's going to be no's, just like with anything. But I, at least in my opinion, those no's are what makes the no's make the yeses so much better. And when you get a no, I think a lot of people just want to give up after the no, and like, well, that sucks. But just because a company doesn't think it's a good idea doesn't mean it's not a good idea. It could be a really great idea, and they could be shooting themselves in the foot afterwards, being like, damn, we missed out on, for whatever reason. And here's the other thing: you don't know what the backlog of that company has. You might have, you can show them a ring trick, and it can be the best looking ring trick in the world, a new gimmick, a new this, and they might say no, but they're not going to say no because we have this coming out. They don't owe you that explanation, but they might have 2 other ring tricks that are coming out. So I presented something to Murphy's, Patrick, and it was a cool little idea. And like I said, I made the video, I made the gimmick myself, I ordered something on Amazon, I cut it in half. And he was like, really cool, but because of Ash and Ember, we already have Ash and Ember. We can't, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense for us to do that. So you just, and that was already out there, but you don't know, these companies, they have backlogs of so many tricks that are like, there's a million tricks that they're working on, that are coming out, that are in the warehouse, that are ready to go, that this needs to be done, or they're waiting on boxes, or there's so much that I didn't realize went into all that until more recently. Like I have friends waiting for tricks because the packaging isn't, there. Everything's done, So yeah, I think I answered the question. I get these tangents and I forget what the original question was.
No, you definitely answered the question. Yeah, you definitely did. So the big $1 million question here, one of the big $1 million questions, is dealing with adversity, because you can't put yourself out there without somebody wanting to knock you down. And I know that you've had, your fair share of idiots. How do you deal with that? Does that just like come with the territory? Is that just like, well, if I'm putting myself out there on social media, I'm gonna have to deal with this. This is just part of the course. And how do you deal with that sort of stuff? Because it can be, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of online hate, and it's not a nice thing to have to deal with.
No. Yeah, that's hard, because as much as I sit and say like it won't affect me, you know, as much as you might be having the greatest day ever, and then one message or one comment can bring you down, like, and it really can affect you. And that person could care less of how it's affecting. I don't know. I think this is, I hate when it becomes actual bullying and like threats to be killed, or like, that's wrong. If you're somebody doing that, it's wrong, and you need to stop doing that, because you really, now I'm not in the generation of like everyone has a mental health problem and everyone needs, that's not, I'm kind of old school with that stuff, but mental health and all that stuff is real. And I feel like you never know what somebody's like going through. So to put them down and to take the energy and time to put that person down, I feel like you could be doing something much more, just something better in general. You don't need, somebody once said to me, I liked and left a comment on a video that wasn't the best video. And someone messaged me and said, why did you do that? I've gotten this a few times. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, you left a comment, said, good job. And I was like, yeah, because it's a good job. And they said, well, it's not the best video, and you're kind of supporting bad magic. I said, no, I'm not supporting bad magic. I'm supporting someone who was nervous to post a video in the first place. I already know they're gonna get enough negative crap from enough people. Why can't I be the guy that just says, good job, keep it up, blah, blah, blah. And he was arguing that I was supporting him in a way that wasn't healthy, but I don't think so, because he had enough negativity in those comments. The one good job, he was really trying, keep up the good work. Can't wait to see what it's like in a few weeks, this handling that you have or whatever. I really, really dislike the negativity stuff. because you get people that are trying to do exactly what you're doing, but they're not putting in half the work. I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about in general. They're not putting in the work. So it doesn't just come to you. It doesn't just arrive on your doorstep one day. You know what I mean? You have to put the work in. And I see that it's like, you want it to happen, but I asked a guy one time who messaged me, and he was real negative and nasty. And I said, and he's like, you know, you just came out of nowhere. And, you know, I heard this, blah, blah, blah. And I was on this YouTube. He literally said, he goes, I was listening to a podcast. I heard your name. I went to a YouTube thing. I heard your name. He's like, I'm so fucking sick of hearing your name. Sorry for swearing. Beat that out. And then I asked him, I said, how many, because he's like, I've been trying to do this for 20 years and I haven't been able to. And I said, can I just ask, how many times have you shown a trick to someone or did whatever? He's like, no. So I'm like, of course it's not happening. You didn't even try. You know what I mean? Like, some of these people are real salty and they get salty pretty quick, but I just don't think there's any room for it in magic. My mom, she follows me on Facebook, and there was a comment I left and she had read it, and my mom messaged me and she goes, man, I thought magic was fun and cool. She's like, all I saw was a bunch of grown men that are acting like kids that were fighting over their toys. That's literally what she said. And that's a horrible image for magic to have, you know? That's what she thinks of magic, you know, that we're just a bunch of kids fighting over the toys. She's like, they were so cruel. She's like, I've never seen anything like it in my life. But you got to ignore it. You got to ignore it because they're, or at least try to ignore it. I know it's not easy to ignore. Definitely not. Really? When they bring family into it. I had some guy bring up my father's death. Like, what the, like, come on, dude. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, and it's really bad in magic. It's horrible. You can't, like, I'm genuinely nervous for the couple things I have coming out to come out. I'm literally nervous because of haters. Like, I don't know why. There's no reason for me to be nervous. On my end, it's just I'm nervous because I know that they're going to be like guns loaded, ready to go with anything they can. But I do think there comes to a point where you just ignore. You know, you have to ignore and not even give them the energy, because I'll get sucked right into it, and then I'll be in a war with this person and that, and because you want to speak your mind and you want to be heard, and you don't want somebody talking crap about you. But it's easier said than done to ignore it. I'll say that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And has anything that's happened to you impacted on your frequency of posting on social media, or?
No.
No,
I'm not going to do it, dude. I've had people that will literally message and say, you know, if you post once a week, people will appreciate it more. Don't care. It goes back to the thing, do it for myself. I'm not doing it for you. I don't care if I post 50 times in a day. Don't watch it. You know what I mean? I'm not doing it. You don't think it's a good trick? I literally don't give a crap. I'm doing it for me. Yeah. And
it's that old expression, isn't it? Be so good that they can't ignore.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't, because like when I talk to these people, I was helping a kid get up his social media, and he was like, what do I wear? What is this? And all these things. I'm like, dude, just put the camera on, do it. Just do it. Because people are going to say things. They're going to point out things. You know, oh, there is a spot on your wall, you know, all these things. But if you just do it for you, and I know that sounds selfish, and I don't want that to be taken the wrong way, because you are doing magic for other people to see. But when it comes to that, you really got to do it for yourself. And then anyone who wants to enjoy it, let them enjoy it. But I literally have people say, like, post less. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. I just want to do me and just have a fun time doing it. Like, why do I have to follow those rules? The good thing is that social media is that's your space. You know what I mean? So nobody could tell you how to. Can you imagine someone coming to you being like, okay, I think you need to do one YouTube video a week, Craig? And you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, no, you know, I don't want to, you know? Maybe somebody has a formula that would work better for me, better for you. I don't know, but then that wouldn't be me. So I want to make sure it stays me, because I got wrapped up into like the views thing and the this and the that, and you can't let it get you down. It can get so disheartening when, you know, you work hard on something and it doesn't get love, but then something that gets, you weren't even gonna post gets a lot of love. But you just have to not really worry about it, I guess. That's a hard thing to do. It will come with time, but I know it's not easy at first, you know?
Yeah.
But don't put crap out there either. Don't just put crap. Like, actually do think about what you're putting out there. I think that's important, you know? Like with Ryland, he puts out these great little videos every day that are like, they're just good, like little entertaining videos, you know, that everyone, you see all the love he gets on them. You see all the likes he gets on them. Go look at those videos. Go look at other people's videos. See what they're doing, but then find your own style. You know, see what works. See what people are listening. See what people are wanting to see, because that always changes. When it was COVID, people want to see something different. Now it's, you know, it's just. But that's why I say do it for you, because if you do it for you, then you don't have to worry about any of that. You can just do it for you and then enjoy. I've had people message me before where a lady said her and her daughter were in a hospital. The daughter was dying. She was like 6. And they were watching videos of mine and it was the first time she had seen her daughter smile in like 3 weeks. That's crazy. Like, she hadn't seen her daughter smile in 3 weeks, and they were watching videos that I had made, and it actually gave the mom a moment to leave the hospital, to go home while the dad stayed there, so then she can take a break and take rest, because she felt like, okay, my daughter smiled, I can leave her side for a second. To me, that's crazy. That wouldn't have happened if I listened to what other people said, because it was on a video where someone messaged me like, you're gonna put up this crap, blah, blah, blah. And that was their video that they were watching. So I don't know, you know, I think it's important.
Yeah. You sometimes forget how much impact that we have on people, whether we're in person or posting online. Big question. Burnout, whether that be creator burnout or that be burnout in terms of keeping up your output on social media, which is a big part of your brand strategy. Do you ever experience burnout where you just, you know, because you do post very frequently, do you ever get to a position where you just wake up in the morning and you go, you know what, I just can't do this today?
Yeah. It doesn't happen as much as you would think, I think. But yeah, no, burnout's a real thing. If you notice, if you actually look, you can see there's times on social media where I won't even post for like 3 weeks. And that's not even really burnout. That's just me not having any fun ideas. Creative burnout. I experienced that last month, and it was like nothing was popping in my head. But I have a board from your videos that I write the stuff down, and that does help to look at that board. Having it there, things that you forget about. And well, that's different, I guess, because burnout and then just not having, I guess it's the same thing, because when I start feeling it, I can feel myself and I back away a little bit. And I'm just like, I do try to do something different. I don't know, just anything. It's good to have multiple hobbies. But it's going to go back to the same thing I say with everything is like, do it. If you feel like you're being burnt out, then take a step back, you know, and I know some people get really burnt out where they just leave the magic. They're just done, right? Man, I hope I never get to that point. But you never know. Yeah, you never know. But creative burnout, is I don't know. If you're being burnt out on something, change it up, right? There's definitely times where I've it'll be a card thing, and I won't touch cards. Like, that's kind of, I did so many card things. I came up with all these different ideas with these different decks. I haven't touched cards in like 2 months because I could feel myself like, so I've just been messing with coins lately, you know, different things. I don't know. anything, but try to feel what your body's telling you before it gets there, in your mind before it gets to that point.
Right. And I want to ask you one more question, which is, I know you've said you don't really know what's happening, and hey, you don't know if you're going to make a full-time living out of this, but you want to make it a business.
Yeah.
It's the goal. Normally, it's this point in the interview where I say to somebody, hey, what's on your magical bucket list? And it's normally somebody who's been in this industry for a long time and has achieved an awful lot. You've achieved an awful lot, but you've only been in this industry for 3 years.
Yeah.
You're at the start of your career. If I could snap my fingers, have you live your perfect life, what would that look like? Would you be a performer? Would you be a creator? Would you be creating magic full time? Would you be working as a consultant? What would you be doing? What's your goals in this industry? Because right now, the world's your oyster. You've got a huge profile. All the companies are wanting to work with you. I am privy to some of the tricks that you've got coming out this year, and they're fantastic. You're doing everything right, Chris. So what if I could snap my fingers and have you be in the perfect situation, what does that look like?
So that 110% is working for one of these companies. That's what I want to do. That I want a job working for, I don't know if it's because I have job history with dealing with things overseas and sales and all that stuff, like anything, looking at magic tricks, coming up with ideas for magic tricks. And I know I'm so new, but I feel like it could be really good for a company to have fresh, right?
100%.
That's the end. And then coming out with my own things, of course. Like when there was, I never want to rush anything. That's the thing, is I don't want to rush. I don't want to create something just to create something. I promise you, I probably created 80 tricks, okay, that are mine, you'll see 2 this year, but it's because I don't want to rush any of those, right? I don't want to, and they're not full tricks, and I want to put time with them, and I don't want to just come out with an idea, have it be something fun and or something that's cool for a second, but it could have been much better. And I don't share a lot of those, only with like close friends. And like you said, like you were asking, I do want to still create magic and have like a release here or there. It doesn't need to be every 6 months even, but the end goal would be to work, even if it was 2 days a week, like doing something for one of these companies for the experience. And I'm confident enough in myself to know that I can do something good and fresh for that company, whatever it would be. You know what I mean? And I feel like you have to have the confidence. And I'm not trying to sound cocky. I'm just saying that I think you have to be confident in yourself. And I think that's important, with a lot of things. But that would be the end goal. That would be the end goal for sure. That would be the dream.
Well, you know what? I think you can make it happen. You're definitely driven and determined enough. You're fantastic at online networking. Everybody knows who you are. I'm friends with Bo Kramer, who runs the socials for Murphy's Magic, and all he talks about constantly is you. I mean, that's a good situation to be in, right?
Yeah, no, it's great. Yep.
I mean, a really great situation. So you said that you've got probably 2 tricks coming out this year. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
2. Yeah, 2.
Yeah. So have you yet created the biggie, the trick that becomes the one that you are known for the rest of your life? So, for example, Dan Harlan has Cartoon. He's created a billion things, but really, I think it's Cartoon is going to be his legacy. Every creator has something like that. Do you have and I know you might not even know it yet because you don't know what's coming out in the future, but you can kind of feel it in your bones.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, when he created Cartoon, he probably thought, oh, this is a really good trick. But I'm not sure he knew it would be like the best. That's hard. There's a few things that I'm excited about. But then that's my creative process. I'll put it to the side and then I'll come back to it later. I know it's just a packet trick, but I'm really excited for people to see the Alakazam trick. Harry's been testing it on some people at the like when they come into the shop, the prototype version, and he messaged me and was like, dude, this thing is gonna kill. This thing is gonna go insane for us. And so I'm excited for you. This is not gonna be the one I'm known for, I don't think, but I think that's a hard question, Craig, because I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there's some things I've been excited about. And I guess we'll just have to see where that goes. But again, that's my creative thing. I'll have a little bit here and a little bit there. Just like I take a little bit of magic from this trick and a little bit of magic, I do that with my own stuff. I'll create something and then I'll take half of it over there and then take half of it. You know what I mean? So I think that's, yeah, I don't know yet, actually. Good question. But I know what you mean, because I think you know when you do something, you're like, this is big. Like when you did Quantum Deck, you knew like this is big, you know? I don't think I've had that moment yet. You know, doesn't mean it won't happen tomorrow, doesn't mean it will happen ever. I don't know, but I don't think I've actually had that moment yet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No problem. No problem. That's absolutely fine. I think that you can definitely get there very, very soon.
Yeah.
I think you could definitely get there. And the future is very, very bright for you, Chris. In an ideal world, is there a particular company that you haven't spoken to or had much interaction yet with that you'd like to work with?
Yeah. It's really I would like to do some more with Penguin. I just like I like what they do. I like the image. I like that. Like the Penguin partner thing is great and all that, and that's fun. And I know they emailed me and said like great job and all that, but Penguin has their like tight knit little family going on, and I think it's hard to get in there, you know. And they have so many great things coming out, so many things. Like they have a machine. That a company is a machine, and they know every little cog in that wheel. So, but Penguin, yeah, Penguin would be something that would be is on the list for sure. I don't know. I just like. I think it's because maybe that's the first magic shop I ever bought anything from, and I thought it was fake. So it'd be fun to be working for a fake, what I thought was a fake company, you know. Yeah.
Are you planning on bringing any other freebies out, or have you kind of done that? You did that to get your name out there, and as you say, it definitely worked. 50 reviews, you know, everybody's downloaded it. Everybody knows what it is. A lot of people are performing it. I love it.
Yeah.
Are you going to be doing anything else with that, or was that kind of a one shot and you're done thing? Now you're going to start bringing tricks out, and you know,
yeah.
Is there going to be anything else coming out before your main releases later on this year? Is there going to be something else we're going to see of yours?
Yeah. I don't know if I'll do the Penguin thing again. And this is Penguin. I know you're probably not watching this, but if someone is, the partner program uploading was horrendous. It was the worst thing I experienced. I would literally never do it again because I don't want to deal with it again. Even if I charge, I don't want anything to do with it. It needs to be reworked. It was not a fun experience. Video has to be a certain gigabyte, and it's just insane. Maybe it's me, I don't know. But what was the question? Wait, you said I was talking about.
I'm firing quick fire, rapid question after rapid question after rapid question.
No, it was a good question though. Good Lord. I forget what you said. I forget what it was. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I was talking about different companies and working with different companies and so on and so forth. But
Is that what...
Yeah.
I don't know why I had a brain fart.
Hey, it's fine. It's fine.
My dog's looking at me, so I was looking at him for a second. Yeah, no, okay. I think I might have, I didn't answer it. Now I'm gonna beat myself up over not answering that question because I thought it was a good question.
It's
Anyway,
okay. It's okay. It's okay. I've loved this interview. I really have. I mean,
yeah,
it's great, you know, because this is what Talk Magic's all about on Magic TV. It's about speaking to people that are, you know, maybe relatively unknown within the magic industry, that are, you know, like you, really got to be making waves, which you are absolutely 100%.
yeah,
So I've got one more question,
yeah.
which is, would you ever want to perform? I know you've talked about not performing, but you've talked about creating up until this point, and I know you perform socially.
Yeah.
How important is it to be able to road test these ideas in a gigging situation before you release them?
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about having a circle of friends who you
Yeah.
could go to. Would that include people who would go and perform it in a gigging situation for you? Because I know you're friends with people like Jamie Chisholm and people like that go out and gig all the time.
Yeah.
Or do you think that at some point you're kind of going to go, right, you know what, I need to go and perform because I need to go and test this stuff out in the real world just so I can see how it works? Or is that not important? I know Lloyd doesn't do that, for example. Like, what's your head at when it comes to that sort of thing?
I would like to do it just for the experience. You know, I don't know if it's something I would want to keep doing, but I've been offered gigs before based off social media, which is crazy. Like they see a social media and then it'll be like, you'll tag like the area that you're in, and then it will go up on those people's feeds. And people have literally reached out to me before being like, hey, we need a magician. Come on, you know, we need him Thursday. But I mean, I don't have anything like ready to, like, I know a bunch of tricks, but I just wouldn't know how to do it. I guess if I just put myself out there. But the social media has definitely gotten me a few jobs if I would have taken them. There's a local carnival that came into, or a carnival that came into town, and they needed a magician, and they just searched magicians on social media there, and then they literally were like, hey, we need a magician for our carnival. Ours isn't going to be here. So I guess maybe once I might take them up on that offer. There's a lot of people that say they think I would have a lot of fun with it. So maybe I'll try it. It's not super important to me, but it is something that I do want to do, because it would be fun to. Actually, you know what? More so, I think I would like to do like a restaurant thing, like where it'd be like every Friday. You know, that would be fun, more fun than me than going to like some party or something, I think.
Amazing. Yeah. You know what? This has been a great interview, Chris. It really has. And I know what you've got coming up. I know you're constantly creating new ideas. I know you're constantly creating new magic, and you're constantly tweaking with other people's magic, and it's just fantastic. Final question before we wrap this up.
Yep.
Give one piece of advice to somebody watching this who wants to make a name for themselves in the magic industry. One single piece of advice. What would it be?
One piece of advice. It's going to go back to the same thing, and hopefully by now this is drilled into your head. Is be you. And that's really the biggest thing. Is don't try to be this person or that person. Don't tell anybody. Don't let anybody do your journey. Like don't let anybody tell you what road to go down or what journey. And that doesn't mean don't listen to people that have experience and that are trying to guide you and all that stuff. But there's literally people out there that try to guide you down so you don't go up. And it's happened with me. It's happened with friends. Like, and there's no good intentions there. And you just have to use your, gut to figure out if that's where that is and where that's not. But is be you and do you for you. Just make it about you. I know I keep saying that, but I think that's with anything. If you try to worry about what other people think, or it just cripples you. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing. Be you, do you, for you. Cliche, I know, but I think that's important. Because if I listen to all these other people, you know, it might not have been great, but it's great because I'm doing it for me. And I know that it feels good every day and it's fun to do. And I have great friends from it, and I wouldn't want it any other way. So.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? Like I said, the future is so bright for you, my friend. I'm going to have to wear shades. You really are making waves in this industry. And I think that however much people have seen you up until this point, they ain't seen anything yet. And I think that you have the potential to be one of the biggest names in the industry, especially with the work ethic that you have, the excitement, the respect for magic, the ambition, the creativity, the drive, the desire, all of that put together. You're the total package, Chris. And yeah, congratulations on everything that you've achieved in 3 years. It makes me sick. Congratulations on everything that you've done. And seriously, thank you so much for coming on Magic TV. If people want to follow you on social media, what's the best platforms to go for?
Instagram, just do Chris James Magic and I'll pop right up. Yeah.
Okay.
A follow would be great. Yeah.
If anybody watches,
but only follow me if you want to watch the video. Don't follow me for just a pity follow. I don't want that. I want people watching that are there that actually want to see different things. And yeah.
Perfect. Chris James Magic, follow him on Instagram. He's got some incredible content. Look out for Chris, because over the course of the next year or two, you're going to see some incredible magic coming from him. Mark my words, I've seen a lot of it, and it's going to be fantastic. But Chris, one more time, thank you so much for coming on Magic TV. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
Guys, let Chris know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a comment in the comments, and then go follow him on Instagram, because his channel is amazing, way better than mine. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with another video, but on behalf of Chris James, thank you so much for watching. I'm Craig from Magic TV, and that is Chris James.
I want to end it by turning off the flux capacitor. There you go.
Well, we could go back in time now. Amazing. Love that. Chris,
okay.
I'll see you again soon, buddy.
Okay. Bye, man.